So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where the United States of America just kind of disappears. I'm not talking about collapsed, I mean just kind of like gone. So the land area, the government, the people, they're just gonna, kind of cease to exist. And half the world will be screaming in joy and half the world will be very, very scared. And yeah, we're gonna be seeing what happens. So if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. It helps our channel grow and it helps us get closer to our goals. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into this. Now, in order for America to effectively disappear, they're gonna have to sink. Now, if you're new to my videos, you probably don't know what this means, but sometimes I like to, put countries underwater. Popular examples include Bosnia and Herzegovina, the entire Balkan Peninsula, the country of Myanmar, and the area of Kashmir. But now it's time for the third largest country in the world to do just that. So now that the world's leading economical and military power has seemingly vanished, what's gonna happen? Well, a lot of things are going to die, and the most notable is the global economy. Like I said, the US is the leading global economical figure, and now that that's gone, everyone has to rely on China. And also, like I said, the military is gone, so that global police force is no longer a thing. Europe is very scared right now. Believe it or not, the first country to make a move is actually Russia. Who would have known? Russia is now technically the strongest country in the world, and with that title, they can kind of do whatever they want. On top of Ukraine, they immediately start to invade Georgia. Russian forces pour into the country from the north, and we actually have NATO starting its own campaign into Georgia as well. I'm only going to color Turkey here because we're going to be zoomed in over here, but they're going to try their best to prevent Russia's expansion. It's probably not going to go well. So now NATO troops in Turkey start to flood into Georgia in order to save as much of this country as possible. Of course, this is a late response, and the majority of Georgia ends up being captured by Russia. And in this peace treaty, we see Russia annexing all of Georgia except for a small slither which is given to Turkey and is set up as a special administrative region of the country. We see a mass amount of Georgians flooding into this area, although Russia tries its best to stop them from leaving. Now, unfortunately, we're going to have to focus in on Russia's war in Ukraine, and I say unfortunately because it's going to be the same thing that I do every video. We kind of have to get through Ukraine in order to get to the rest of Europe. So Frontlines in Ukraine actually have changed a lot recently with Ukraine's massive counteroffensive. So Russia's been kind of kicked out of the Kharkiv region, which means they're kind of isolated to Donbass. But yeah, currently it looks something like this. Ukraine is currently winning in land gain per day, but assuming the United States is gone, they're not getting as much supply as they need right now, and Russia mobilizes its entire army, and that entire army is not having it. Weeks of progress immediately get reverted as the full Russian military pushes into Ukraine. Now, I know in real life that this probably wouldn't go as smoothly, and I'm greatly overestimating Russia's capabilities here. However, we want to get past Ukraine and on to the rest of the video. So after a bunch of smashing campaigns over here in the south, we eventually see the capturing of Kyiv and the complete capitulation of the country of Ukraine. Now, just before this peace deal is ratified, we actually have Russia and Belarus uniting into one country. And looking at this peace treaty here, Russia annexes all of Ukraine and Belarus, and a puppet state is set up over here, which is most likely temporary as Russia prepares to invade the rest of Europe. But now we have events taking place elsewhere in the world, such as this. Now this is not of North Korea's best interest. That is until someone does something stupid, which, when you think about it, it's not really that stupid. They're protecting their ally, but at the same time, they're also doing that. So yeah, unfortunately Taiwan gets drawn up in this. I mean, China was already going to invade them, and at this point, once again, the United States is just not there, so China can kind of just do whatever they want over here now, and unfortunately doing whatever they want involves a lot of death. So Navy here is going to be a lot more interesting because China now has the upper advantage against these three allies. So we know in real life that South Korea has been preparing for this day since the ceasefire was signed in the Korean War. So Pyongyang actually doesn't really succeed here, and we actually have Seoul getting the upper advantage. South Korean troops immediately flood into North Korea, and their technological advantage really shows in battle. They even start to get near Pyongyang until eventually China has something to say about it. Well, they actually have two things to say about it. One is screw you, and the other is also screw you. Now, South Korea is a strong country, the 5th strongest in the world, and China at this point is the 2nd strongest. What does China have that South Korea has not? A lot of people. I mean, South Korea has a lot of people, but China has 1.3 billion people, and a lot of that is in the army. So while technically South Korea is killing more troops, it just doesn't matter because of China's sheer amount of manpower. Now, this would most likely take months to completely capitulate Korea, but it would happen. I'm pretty confident in that. And with this, we have the Chinese and Japanese Navy meeting together. Unfortunately for the Japanese Navy, they really don't have the best of chances. We have Taiwan getting surrounded and eventually completely captured, and now it's just a naval war until eventually China reaches the southern Japanese Isles. We have them taking the southernmost island until eventually Japan agrees for peace. And let me tell you, the peace terms are not pretty for the three allies. I mean, on the map it looks like nothing, but This is all China now, and this is now all North Korean. Forgot what it's called, but they it's the South Korean island. They took it because they want influence over Japan. So yeah, that's all fun and dandy over here in the east. Canada's probably screwed, but they're also an island now. Yes, I do know about the island that Canada and Denmark border each other on. The Middle East is gonna fight itself to the greatest extent ever seen. I mean, Israel just lost its biggest trading partner as well as one of its biggest allies. Iran just lost its biggest threat, and Saudi Arabia just lost one of its trading partners. So everyone over here is a little bit angry. In Europe, everyone's preparing to be hurt by Russia. You know, in fact, let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. Single-handedly, the United States carries NATO. Without it, it's really not gonna look pretty. You know how the red team always pushes in but eventually gets pushed back in these kind of scenarios? Well, yeah, they're just gonna push in and they're not gonna get pushed back. The majority of European countries now see Russia as the biggest threat to humanity. Not their country, but just humanity as a whole. And some countries take the initiative to kind of join this war in order to stop Russia from, well, ending humanity. These countries include everyone except for Switzerland and Serbia. Speaking of Serbia, they joined in on the red team. Why did they do that? Because they know Russia's gonna win here. So the onslaught begins. Poor little Moldova is rolled over by Russian tanks within weeks, and the Romanian army tries its best to hold back the Russian advance. Russia focuses in on capturing Hungary and Slovakia, which is a weaker point on the NATO defense line. But out south, we have Serbia getting wrecked by NATO forces. Up north, the Baltics are starting to get invaded, while Russia attempts an advance into Finland, which goes horribly as the Finnish push them out immediately. Yeah, this is the only front Russia's probably going to struggle with. Russian troops attempt to sneak into Poland, although they are kind of held back as Poland is one of the stronger NATO members. And on the border of Turkey, we have this area being taken by Russia. Now, Russia does something a little bit weird here. They kind of offer peace to Turkey. They say, hey, I know that you're not really pro-Western, or as pro-Western as you seem. I know you don't necessarily hate me that much, so how about we just kind of make an exchange? You give me this part of Georgia, and I give you the ability to live. Yeah, I'd probably take up on the offer too. So just like that, Turkey once again backstabs NATO and leaves the war. Greece is fuming right now. Turkey also contributed a lot to the NATO alliance since they are like one of the strongest countries in the alliance as well. So without them at all, it's going to be a lot less pretty in the Balkan area. But up to the Baltics, we have Russia finally meeting up with Kaliningrad and establishing a front line on all sides of it. They then use this front line to push into Lithuania. Eventually, Lithuania is the first NATO country to capitulate. Followed by this is the complete dismantling of the Baltic region. I mean, these guys are just kind of thrown around and shot. And we have Estonia and Latvia following suit in the capitulation process. Russians now push out from southern Ukraine into northern Romania, while in Poland they make a breakthrough in the front line and start to head down towards Warsaw. In the north we have Russia re-entering Finland, but this is eventually stalemated. And on the Black Sea coast we have them capturing all of Romania's coast. Back over in Slovakia and Hungary, the Russians continue to push deeper into NATO territory, until finally the front line with Romania breaks and Russians start flooding in. Now I know there's some mountains in this area, but we're going to pretend those don't exist. Russia eventually meets the border of Serbia and pushes into the occupied country, and eventually in time they liberate Belgrade. With this, they start to swoop around Romania until eventually we have one of these stronger NATO countries capitulating. We then see Russian troops seep down into Bulgaria. So at this point in the war, NATO is hurting, and they really don't have the morale they need to win this war. Without the United States here to help Europe, it's really just going to be a European buffet for Russia. But actually at this point in time, we have a kind of a stalemate being drawn up. I want to say armistice, but it's not really because there's still fighting going on places in the border. But both sides kind of like almost agree to stop fighting for a little bit. This is because the economy of the entire world is at an all-time low and people really just want to recover for it. So while that happens up north, we have a small map change taking place over here in the Middle East. Seems like Iraq wanted revenge. Alright, but those few weeks of armistice, they're over. Now the Europeans are very surprised when Russia breaks this, as the economy still hadn't recovered. But this does cause the Europeans to fully remobilize their troops again. The Russians now reach the Czech Republic. We have Budapest, Hungary being captured, which leads to the country's surrender. And we see all of Western Serbia liberated. Serbia as a whole is recaptured, and through Montenegro we finally see the Russians reaching the Adriatic Sea. Kosovo collapses, and followed by this is North Macedonia. Bulgaria is essentially surrounded on all sides, but they do hold out a little bit longer than their Balkan friends. Up in Poland we see the Russians starting to invade from the south up towards Warsaw, and at this point all hands are on deck in Poland, as losing Poland would be a very large blow to the Europeans. The Republic of Srpska breaks away from Bosnia and Herzegovina, which kind of starts a civil war, except that civil war doesn't last very long, as Russians just kind of take it all from themselves. It's important to note that a lot of the NATO countries in this area in particular are pretty weak, especially these three, and then Kosovo, if it was in it, Bosnia, Croatia, Slovenia. the Baltics. The stronger countries are going to be over here in the west, so the UK, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, of course Italy, and then Greece, and then Poland, Finland, and then also Sweden and Norway. Maybe Norway? I don't know about Norway. Speaking of Finland, we have a small change taking place. Yeah, Finland. So with the Balkan front completely collapsing, we have the Russians nearing Greece. They eventually cut off the panhandle from Greece and Bulgaria surrenders. And from here we have a stalemate being established as Greece takes a lot of its military and people and put them on this front line. They do not want the Russians to take their country over. Over in Croatia, we have them losing a lot of their land until eventually they too surrender. And we have the Russians entering into Slovenia until they are stopped by both the Austrian Alps and the Italian military. Russia attempts to squeeze even closer to Warsaw, and they are eventually stopped. And the reason they're stopped is because NATO is planning a massive counteroffensive against the Russians. First off, they almost completely push the Russians out of northern Poland. Second off, they push back this spearhead. And third off, they push into Hungary. Their main goal here is to liberate Hungary and Slovakia, and following this they plan on liberating Slovenia, Croatia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. So they start off in the Balkans, and they're eventually stopped. They then start off in Slovakia and Hungary. They manage to take Hungary's capital back, as well as Slovakia's, but that too is eventually stopped. Then they focus on Poland, and that stops as well, and that's all she wrote. After using tons of resources and manpower, NATO's plan has effectively failed as the Russians retake the area they just gained. As the Russians retake the area they just lost. But let's not overestimate the Russians here. They are currently occupying a lot of land and a lot of diversity, ethnicity, and religion. And honestly, that's going to be really hard to control, especially consider the entire Balkan Peninsula, apart from Greece, is under Russian control. We know from history that a united Balkans does not work. So after a lot of uprisings, Russia agrees with NATO that peace should be established, and they eventually come to a compromise. Looking at this peace deal here, it's not looking good for NATO. Now first off, most notably, Russia has annexed the Ukrainian puppet. They've also taken over Moldova and all 3 Baltic states. They've taken over the coast of Romania as well as a chunk of northeastern Poland. On top of this, we also have puppet governments being set up in Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria. And together, these guys all reform the famous Warsaw Pact. Serbia instantly joins this, and Europe, it's not going to make it to the next 100 years. I'm just going to say that. So Europe, you know, other than losing half of their continent, they now hate Turkey. Pretty notable change. At this point, Russia's power is running rampant, and basically everyone can do what they want to do. The United Nations is trying its best, but against dictators and authoritarian governments, it's not gonna fly. But you know, now that the United States of America is gone, Russia is the strongest country and China is the second strongest country. On top of this, Russia has the military and China has the economy. So with this in mind, both of these countries probably have a vast amount of influence over the world. And on top of that, they also have overlapping influence, like in Mongolia and North Korea, as well as Pakistan. So would this overlapping influence perhaps cause a Cold War? Now, in theory, if these two sides were to go to war, how would the world react? Well, if you want to find out that answer, then just go ahead and search Russia versus China scenario on YouTube. You'll find my video and you'll see these two countries going to war. That's right, this entire video is a promo for a video I made months ago. Just kidding, but you should probably watch that video anyway. A Cold War would most likely ensue between Russia and China over influence as well as power. Of course, they both want to take over the world, so I'm just going to go ahead and put in the allies of each two countries. So of course we have the basic countries such as Iran, Tajikistan, India, and Vietnam on Russia's team. And then on China's team we have Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, and North Korea. But countries where they're going to be competing for influence is going to be Mongolia, Kazakhstan, maybe Turkey, although they're definitely Russian leading. Maybe Saudi Arabia, but they're also probably Russian leading. And then of course all of Central Asia. These guys would most likely be on China's side as well as Myanmar. And all of Europe on China's side. And that makes for an interesting scenario, which I will not be mapping up because my time has concluded for making this video. I've already recorded a video today, which was, I forgot. Wait, what was it? Oh, it was what if the United States invaded Mexico? That was a fun video to make. This was a fun video to make as well. And yeah, in the past couple of days, I've been like in a good mood for recording videos. So I'm trying to take advantage of that and use this time to actually make videos that I enjoy making. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy the other videos I make. I'm just saying that like, the motivation is finally here to do it. So all throughout this week and probably next week, I'll be doing a lot of videos. We're still going to have the Wednesday and Saturday videos, but you're also probably going to see videos on Mondays, on Thursdays, Fridays. I'm just going to be posting whenever I can. And I hope to probably get a video up on Monday. Of course, you already know if I did that or not. You're probably seeing this video on either Tuesday or Wednesday. And I don't know for the rest of the week. I have a big list of videos I'm going to record, and I'm actually pretty stoked to do it. So yeah, with that on topic, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to this channel if you're new. I say it in every video, we're aiming for 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. We have around 3 2/3 of a month to get there, and I still think it's possible. So if you want to help out, make sure to show some support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.